Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our April 13th, 2021 Board of Commissioners meeting. Our first order of business, will please join me to the pledge to our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome, everyone. Bob, do we have anything to add to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, there are no changes to the agenda today.
Landcamer moves the agenda.
People seconds.
Got a first and a second for the agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none. Stephanie, would you roll call?
Commissioner Papp?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Strumberg? Aye. Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries. At this time, we will move on to our Economic Development Authority. So I'll need a motion or call it to order. Anything to add to this agenda review, Bob?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda?
So
Pat moves.
Got a first and a second.
People,
Discussion?
people seconds.
Any discussion? Stephanie, want to do roll call, please?
Commissioner Papp?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Strumberg? Aye. Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries. Minutes from the January 5th meeting, 2021 are attached.
I'll move the minutes. Landcamer.
Second, Vance.
Got a first and a second. Any discussion? Stephanie, would you roll call, please?
Commissioner Papp?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Strumberg? Aye. Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries. Well, at this time, we will have a public hearing on the 2021 proposed PHA annual plan. The plan addresses the missions, goals, and objectives, updates to the 5-year plan, the capital fund information, in addition to other items. This hearing provides an opportunity for citizens to submit comments and recommendations on the proposed plan in a public setting. Since most attendees are attending virtually, I would ask anyone to speak to introduce themselves before speaking and make sure your phone is on mute while we're having our meeting. Staff is here to give us a brief update on the plan and address questions as needed. And Nancy's here today. Thank you and welcome.
Morning, Nancy.
Morning, Nancy.
And I just wanted to let you know for the public hearing portion, Kristen Prozoski is on Zoom, and so she was going to go through the agency plan information right away.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Chair Brunder and members of the EDA, as was stated before you today, is the annual PHA plan. And that really is a plan that guides the federally funded housing programs that we operate. The plan, looks at the continuation of our current programming, such as the Housing Choice Voucher Program and our Family Self-Sufficiency Program, as well as some of the home ownership opportunities that we have. That's within the Brewer County Public Housing Agency plan. I did want to mention that in addition to those, there are some specialized voucher programs that are operated under the Mankato EDA. Because we, really operate jointly, the programs are beneficial to our entire county. We have seen an increase in the number of the specialized vouchers. That includes 102 additional Main Street vouchers within the past 2 years, and more recently, the addition of 12 foster youth to independence vouchers that are now part of the housing assistance resources that benefit our area. The other item I wanted to mention was that the county or the EDA board had previously approved changes to our preference system for the Housing Choice Voucher Program. That was done as part of a previous PHA plan. And I just wanted to draw attention to the fact that when the board approved those preferences, we have really found it to be very beneficial to those in our community that need housing assistance the most. And I would say particularly during the pandemic, it's given us an ability to be more responsive, for example, through preferences such as displacement due to governmental action, or being able to work with more households that are coming to us through our coordinated entry system. So I just wanted to mention that the decisions that the board makes really are impactful, and that we've seen benefits by the board's approval of those preference changes. For our public housing program, the PHA plan does address that as well. Certainly looking at continuing that program, but under a different funding structure. And this is something that we did bring to the board previously, that we previously discussed, but it has been some time. I think the last time we brought it was in January of 2020. So it's under the Rental Assistance Demonstration, or RAD program. Again, the EDA would continue to own and operate our current housing units, so we're not suggesting any change to that, but it would change the funding source. So just as a little bit of a refresher, because it's been some time, right now we're funded under rents from tenants, which represents 30% of their adjusted monthly income, plus an operating subsidy and capital funds from HUD. The proposal, or kind of doing this repositioning, would have us still seeing those same rents from tenants, so that part doesn't change. It's still 30% of their adjusted monthly income, but then from the HUD side of it would be a housing assistance payment or a half payment. That's how the Housing Choice Voucher Program operates, and this would be bringing project-based housing choice vouchers to our units. So we would then enter into a HAP contract with HUD for 15 or 20 years, which again provides us that long-term and just more predictable and at a more sustainable funding level. I would like to note that after the 15 or 20 years, it's not only a possibility to extend it, it's an expectation. So we would expect that to happen. One change, or one thing that's different than when we had previously brought this to the board, is that HUD has more recently given guidance on a new option under RAD. We're pretty excited about the new option. We think that it's a better fit for the EDA. It's called a RAD Section 18 Small PHA Plan. And what it allows for is that 20% of the units would see revenue at the RAD rents, and then up to 80% would see revenue through the Section 18 option, which really sets rents it's based on the fair market rents as determined by HUD. And those are typically at a higher revenue stream than the RAD rent. So it just blends the two together. But what we were extra excited to learn is that they've blended the program the tenant rights. And so giving all tenants, no matter whether their unit is considered RAD or Section 18, giving all tenants the RAD tenant rights, which are really the most protective of the tenant. And so then everybody has the same set of rules, and nobody would be rescreened for any eligibility requirements, and just gives them the best protections across the board. And under previous scenarios that we were looking at, that was a place of hesitation for us, because we didn't want to have situations where somebody may have an issue if they're over income for the new guideline. So we're really pleased to see that HUD allowed for that better tenant protections for everyone. Additionally, going through this process and having project-based vouchers would open up some of our current housing choice voucher programs to our public housing tenants. For example, the Family Self-Sufficiency Program and our home ownership programs. And then after a year after conversion, it does also open up the possibility of choice mobility for tenants that live in our units. And so they would then have the ability to choose if they wanted to take their voucher to another unit that's within fair market rent. So that's again similar, follows the rules for the Housing Choice Voucher Program. We did hold tenant meetings. We held pre-pandemic, we're able to hold 5 of them in January 2020 in person. And then, again, because it had been some time, we did do another meeting in March of 2021 just to give an update to tenants that were still in this process and answer any questions that they had. So the application for RAD has been submitted, and again, the EDA authorized us to do that in January 2020. We just saw timing delays due to the pandemic. But that has now been submitted. So next steps are for us to continue working with HUD, the HUD team, until they've got us to the point where they've issued a commitment to enter into a housing assistance payment contract. They call that a CHAP. And when a CHAP has been issued to us, then we can move forward with the capital needs assessment on the units and follow HUD's guidance on the other documentation that they'll require. So we know that they'll be looking for submission of a financial plan and other items, and we'll just continue to work through that process. We will have additional tenant meetings, again, based on timing that HUD guidance gives us. So the reason the RAD update is being provided is because we have included this in the PHA plan and kind of set the pathway, that we're looking at going down for this. For the PHA plan itself, we did have 2 tenant meetings. We did receive questions on home ownership and also on the RAD conversion, and so we were able to answer those questions. We did additionally receive a comment that was an expression of appreciation for the housing assistance being received, with the person noting that, in particular, the Family Self-Sufficiency Program had helped them develop their 501c3 business. So I did just want to share that comment received. Again, this is a public hearing. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Thank you for that report, Christina. Is there anybody on the board that has a question at this time? Colleen?
Hi, Kristen. You said 20% would be RAD and 80% would be fair market housing, fair market value. What is our split right now?
So right now, we're still being funded under an operating subsidy and then under a separate capital fund appropriation. The scenario we were previously looking at, we needed to designate a certain number of units. It wasn't based on a percentage, it was based on what HUD calls a scattered site definition.
Okay.
So we did not run like a percentage split, but we did look at, what if we would continue down the path of not doing this blend option? And we tried to do as many Section 18 units as we could and minimize the number of RAD units. To be honest with you, it could result in a slightly higher revenue stream. I think the difference was about $7,000, but there's a couple of caveats with that. The Section 18, if we don't do the blend, the Section 18 does not provide as robust of protections for the current tenants. So we were very concerned about what that could look like. Many of the tenants wouldn't have been affected, but some would have potentially. And then the other piece is, under the Section 18 process, when it's not a blend, we have to really look at our current capital fund money that we have and our reserve money that we have, because under that option, we cannot carry those funds forward. So it became a little bit of a juggling act to try to figure out, well, how do we, we were trying to figure out timing, like, do we try to spend some of it down on, some capital needs that aren't extremely urgent, because obviously we're addressing those already, but would be helpful, versus trying to retain some of it. And then part of the juggling act is that under RAD, you need to have a high level of reserves to be able to get through the program. So the blend, while there's the possibility of slightly more revenue not under the blend, we felt that the tenant protections and the not needing to kind of do that juggling act with the timing and the reserve funds was more beneficial than the increased revenue stream.
One other question.
Did that answer your question?
It does. The other question I have is, under the 80%, are they still looking at 30% of their income?
Yes, they
Good.
are. So from the tenant, yes.
Yep.
So it is still, that the tenant would still pay 30% of their adjusted monthly income toward their rent. So that
Okay.
piece does not change.
Okay.
That side of it remains the same. And so that's actually similar to the voucher program. So that part remains.
And how often were they screened in the past under the previous? I know sometimes it's, all it is paperwork. So I'm just wondering if it's better.
Sure. So we do, an initial screening for eligibility
Yep.
within the program. Looking at things like it's certainly income eligibility, and then there are additional eligibility checks on an initial entry into the program. There's still there's an annual recertification that occurs, and that will still be a component because it's under the voucher program and both programs operate that way. The risk that we were looking at for some of our tenants was so the public housing program can serve those up to earning up to 8% of area median income. The voucher program is capped at 50% of area median income. And so if we have current tenants who met the eligibility requirement of public housing as it currently exists, but are between 51% and 80% of area median income, they no longer would fit within the program. And we didn't want to have scenarios where, we've been assisting a family who's been eligible and have them suddenly determined to be no longer eligible for that assistance. So that was the real concern that we had, with not having the protection. So when they gave us this new blend option, the protection exists where the tenants would, even if they were between 51 and 80% AMI, they don't have to leave the program.
Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me, other questions before we get into the public hearing from the board? Okay, thank you for those answers. We appreciate that. At this time, anyone wishing to comment on the proposed plan may do so. Please unmute your line and state your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments to less than 3 minutes. Are there any comments at this time on the Blue Earth County PHA plan? Anyone wishing to comment on the Blue Earth County annual PHA plan? The last call for anyone wishing to comment on the Blue Earth County annual PHA plan. It's an open public hearing. Hearing no public comment, I will close the public hearing portion of the comment and bring it back to the board for questions and consideration for the 2021 Public Housing Agency annual plan.
I of course have a comment or a question.
Perfect.
Would you just explain the home ownership piece? Because I don't think a lot of people understand that, and I think it's really a wonderful program.
I know that we do work with our participants on our voucher program to work towards self-sufficiency, economic self-sufficiency, and getting that job that would support them. But also a component of that is to have them consider home ownership.
Yeah.
And so we work with them through the process to go through home ownership education, to make sure that they understand the whole process of what it would take to be a homeowner and who the players are in buying a home so that they are familiar with that process and can make a good decision on that. And we do have a number of first-time home buyer programs and down payment assistance programs in our community that would really benefit them if they were to own a home. And we find that owning a home might be even more affordable than renting in some cases. So we really encourage them to look at that option. And under the program, we can assist them with their mortgage payment rather than the rental payment. So as they come onto our program and they're under the rental program and we work through that self-sufficiency component, that gets to a point where we can fill that gap with our rental assistance in the affordability of a home.
Yeah.
And so we can assist families up to 15 years in a 30-year mortgage, or if they're elderly or disabled, we can help with the full term of their mortgage, make that payment to them. And like I said, in many cases, that homeownership payment is much more affordable than our rental program. So as far as the payments that we have to subsidize. So we do really encourage families to look at that. We do find a lot of seniors do also purchase homes, and they do it through the USDA Rural Development, and we can partner with them on that. It's a really good option to keep their housing costs affordable over a long-term period. So
I just think it makes such a difference, so, and I don't think a lot of people think about it, so, thank you.
sure.
Good question, Colleen. Other questions for Nancy or?
Just quickly, Nancy's, what kind of numbers we have with people that, I didn't know, maybe you said it, that are involved with the home ownership program?
We've had, over the years, we've probably had about 40 families participate in that. Right now, I believe we have about 25 families working towards
Oh, okay.
homeownership. And we do have the Minnesota Cities Participation Program, and like I said, Rural Development is a good partner too. But the Minnesota Cities Participation Program is a bonding with the state of Minnesota with the county. And so that's kind of a program that we support through that process, and so we can tie that into that. And then we are looking to partner with Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership to do some down payment assistance programs too, tying all those programs together to get someone into a house. So we're hoping to actually get more families over the next couple of years into home ownership.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Other questions or comments? Well, thank you both for them reports. They were very informational, and it's always nice to hear that policies that we've have changed in the past are helpful. So thank you for that tidbit earlier in your presentation, Christine. Always nice to hear that stuff's working. That's what we like to do. Well, if there's no further comment, I guess I would look for a motion to approve the county PHA plan.
I'll
Got a first,
I'll second.
got a first and a second. Any other discussion, questions or comments? Seeing none, Stephanie, we do the roll call?
Commissioner Pap,
Aye.
Commissioner Pepo,
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer,
Aye.
Commissioner Struenberg, Chair Brunder.
Aye. Motion carries. At this time, that will conclude our annual PHA public plan and public hearing. Thank you.
Do we need to close it?
Thank you. Yeah, we need to, yeah.
We got
have to
some
move
other
to-
items of business.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Blue Earth County EDA Public Housing Operation Budget.
Yes, so today we are bringing before you the 2021 budget. And in the past, that process has always been done through the City of Mankato as the financial manager for the funds. And we have submitted to HUD the resolutions by the city authorizing that budget. And HUD is now recommending that we actually come to you as the board of the EDA to approve that resolution. So we're bringing you today the 2021 budget that was approved in December to have you as a board approve as well. And then in the future, with our normal agency plan, it's usually in October. So we're hoping with either in October to bring you the budget, or once the city council does approve it in December, we can come back to you in January and have you approve it before we submit it to HUD.
Thank you,
But
Nancy.
so today we would just like to present this budget and have you authorize the budget for this year.
Thank you.
Landcamer moves the budget.
Do you have a second?
Pepo seconds it.
Got a first and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Stephanie, do the roll.
Commissioner Pap,
Aye.
Commissioner Pepo,
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer,
Aye.
Commissioner Struenberg, Chair Brunder.
Motion carries. Well, thank you very much, Nancy and Kristen, for your reports this morning. We appreciate the information, and have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Can I make a comment
Yep.
before you leave? I just want to say what a great job you and Kristen do, Nancy. I think we're really lucky to have this partnership with the city of Mankato, and I can't say enough good things about the housing and how you all are making it work. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Colleen, for that. That was very good. All right, at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the EDA meeting.
Pap seconds.
Got a first and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pap?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Stuenberg? Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries. All right, our second item, or item 4 on the agenda is some drainage issues. Our first item I have, Craig, is our County Ditch 52 public hearing.
I have a couple of additional handouts, one for each meeting, the 2 first hearings.
If you just give them to me, I'll pass them down. Or are they,
3 on.
that's okay. I'm sorry, I goofed you up.
No,
I just thought it'd be easier.
there we go. Yes.
Okay.
All right, Craig, got everything handed out there.
Yes, thank you.
I will, good morning. Our hearing today is to discuss the preliminary hearing on the proposed improvement and to County Ditch 52. The purpose of this hearing is to consider the petition for the drainage project with all matters pertaining to the preliminary service survey report. Since most attendees are attending virtually, I will ask anyone to speak to introduce themselves before speaking. Please mute your phone until you are ready to speak. Right now, I have the drainage staff here, and they will go over the jurisdictional documents.
Okay. Okay, the Blue Earth County Ditch 52 is in section 16, 17, 20, 21, 28, 29, 32, and 33 of Sterling Township in Blue Earth County. The watershed is approximately 1,200 acres. We received a petition for improvement on August 17, 2020. The Blue Earth County Drainage Authority appointed Charles J. Brandel, engineer, to make a preliminary survey on September 8th, 2020. Mr. Brandel submitted the preliminary survey report to the Property and Environmental Resources Department on February 10th, 2021. A preliminary hearing is not the final approval of the project. The board will be determining if the engineer should proceed with a detailed report and appoint viewers to determine the benefits and damages. And let's see here. The hearing notices were mailed to landowners on March 29th, 2021. And next step is to read the DNR report into the record. Dear Blue Earth County Drainage Authority, thank you for the opportunity to review the proposed Blue Earth County Ditch 52. We offer a summary of and context of the project as well as comments in accordance with Minnesota Statute 103E.255 on behalf of the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. We have organized our comments to align with this statute, which requires that we identify any additional investigation and evaluation that should be done relating to the public waters that may be affected and environmental, land use, and multi-purpose water management criteria in section 103E.015, subdivision 1, and cite specific portions of the preliminary survey report that are determined inadequate. Project summary. The project proposes to replace the tile drainage network on the 1,192 acre Blue Earth County Ditch number 52 watershed with a larger, deeper, and steeper tile network. The proposed project would roughly double the drainage coefficient of the tile system from the outlet drainage coefficient to 0.26 inches per day to 0.5 inches per day. Okay, the Drainage from the watershed is supplemented by the surface runoff, which currently accounts for an estimated 13 to 87% of the total peak flows, leaving the system for a 3 to 7.7 rain event, respectively. To offset some of the subsurface drainage improvement, the project proposes to berm the existing flow path in an existing CREP easement to provide 5.9 acres of feet storage within the roughly 5-acre pool. The volume of this pool is equivalent to 0.06 inches of runoff from the watershed. The estimated project cost is $1.9 million, which averages to be about $1,600 per acre. The preliminary engineer's report estimates at $1.4 million in separable maintenance. Context: the project outlets into Rice Creek, a public water, and then into the Maple River and the LeSueur River, and hence is part of the LeSueur River major watershed. The Maple and the LeSueur rivers experience frequent prolonged flooding. The LeSueur has experienced roughly a double of flow over the last 50 years due to artificial drainage improvements, crop and land use changes, the increase in increased precipitation events. The major watershed has some of the highest sediment and nutrient lodgings of the state, partly due to the location of the Minnesota River Nick zone, but largely due to the extreme advancements in unmitigated artificial drainage. The MPCA has identified altered hydrology as the most common stressor within a major watershed. The Blue Earth County Water Plan provides several recommendations for the drainage systems and croplands. In particular, pages 301 and through 303 identify implementation strategies for the 103 East systems. The One Watershed, One Plan for the LeSueur is underway. Because the LeSueur River watershed is such a high sediment and nutrient contributions, this watershed has been extensively studied, and several groups and entities, including the Soil SWCDs and LeSueur River Watershed Network, a watershed citizens group, are working to improve altered hydrology and overall watershed conditions. Water quality reports are available on the MPCA's LeSueur River Watershed webpage. As was common in the early 20th century, CD52 was created to drain wetlands and to facilitate farming. The historic survey shows that how County Ditch 52 system contained a large wetland. The gray area showed on the left of your handout there, of the letter, and has many identified restorable wetlands today. Blue hash marks below the left image. Many of the difficulties landowners are experiencing with this system are due to the flat topography and landscape attributes that naturally create the historic wetland. These historic and restorable wetlands coincide with the areas where the preliminary engineers report documents drainage problems. For instance, figure 1 in the preliminary engineers reports corresponds to the red circle below and right on the right image. But modeling results for the preliminary engineers report below right images show that how the system is and will continue to a lesser degree after the drainage improvement to try to hold water. As we continue to transition to a wetter climate and more frequent large precipitation events, the landscape tries to hold more water where it can, including these drained wetlands. Water storage for the lack thereof is the linchpin that prevents or accelerates, when lacking, flooding, excessive erosion, degraded water quality, and habitats. Cost versus benefits. The project cost of $1.9 million, $1,600 per acre, is offset by $1.4 million in separable maintenance. The preliminary engineers report documents wet spots in 2/4 of the watershed and some cracks in the existing tile. How was it determined that the whole system needs replacement? What percentage of the watershed is currently experiencing sufficient drainage? We request that the copy of the viewer's report and benefits is provided to us so we may better comment on these factors. Compatibility with plans and alternative measures. The reported alternative measures findings are insufficient compared to the full context of the Blue Earth County Water Plan. The water plan lays out extensive strategies to address a number of concerns relating to drainage water. Furthermore, the other state-level strategies and plans such as the Minnesota Nutrient Reduction Strategy and the LeSueur RAPS are not consulted. In accordance with these plans, additional best management practices should be considered and implemented into this project. Nearly all conservation plans have an underlying foundation, wide-scale adoption of soil health practices, a robust suite of soil health practices, no-till, cover crops, nutrient management, etc. Can improve water quality and quality issues. The additional evaporation of holding capacity on live vegetation and healthy soils can offset drainage problems. The LeSueur River RAPS calls for the improvement of several quality, volume, and habitat parameters. The 10-year target for altered hydrology is a 5% reduction in annual flow rates, including peak flow reductions. Within the RAPS, the priority sources to address flow reduction is decreased evapotranspiration due to vegetation land use and drainage changes. The list of strategies to address the annual flow goal is conservation tillage, cover crops, water sediment basins, near ditch retention and treatment, conservation cover, grassed waterways, saturated buffers, tile system design and use of controllable drainage, treatment wetlands, restored wetlands, and re-examine and revise drainage law. The increased drainage will result in total annual flow volume increases due to less total evapotranspiration. Furthermore, the project does not offer effective water quality improvements, nor includes documentation that any specific implementation steps or strategies are adopted in the watershed from any of these plan strategies listed above. For these reasons, the project does not appear to support the LeSueur River RAPS or the county water plan. The project would be consistent with those plans if the project or watershed fully mitigated changes to the initial annual flow volume, as well as peak flows using the listed strategies above, as well as integrate sufficient BMPs to address water quality and ecological impacts using implementation steps and strategies from these plans. Additional BMPs to adopt to the project can be determined by the following 103E.015 subdivision 1, A in both these letters and spirit of the law. In particular, the statute states when planting a drainage project or repair under section 103E.715 and prior to making the order in the engineer's preliminary survey report for a drainage project or engineer's report for a repair, the drainage authority shall investigate the potential use of external sources for funding to facilitate the purposes indicated in section 103E.011 subdivision 5 and alternative measures in subdivision 1 clause 2. The investigation shall include early coordination with applicable soil and water conservation districts, counties and watershed districts, water planning authorities about potential external sources of funding and technical assistance for these purposes and alternative measures. We ask that this process be used to inform this and future projects, loop in the watershed and conservation resource groups, agencies working in this area, and ideally identify alternative practices that can create a win-win for the project proposers and the environment. We ask that this work be documented within the preliminary engineers report / final engineers report. Compatibility of land use. Drainage improvements is compatible with agricultural land uses within CD52 watershed. However, other land uses include downstream agricultural land, homes, properties, fish, wildlife habitat, wetlands, conservation lands, and other natural resources can be impacted by drainage improvements. While the impact of any single drainage improvement may be less significant, the cumulative impacts of multiple drainage improvements on downstream land uses become very significant. The Lusore River watershed has already experienced substantial cumulative drainage impacts, and because of the sensitive geologic and water quality properties, the potential for this project to further compound these problems should not be ignored. Public water flooding adequacy of outlet hydraulics. We appreciate that the preliminary engineer's report includes a modeling report. We encourage the Drainage Authority and engineers to continue providing these and work to include more through state suite of details as have been communicated on other projects. The modeling report identifies the changes in the Rice Creek's water flow due to proposed impacts is estimated to be about 1% increase under most flow regimes, even though the peak flows from the system may increase substantially. See tables at the right. We are concerned that this project will negatively impact Rice Creek and already overburdened Lusore River watershed due to the potential to increase the total flow volumes of these events. When the project is considered in the context of multiple improvements, the cumulative effects not inconsequential, we request that the modeling report to be updated to also include hydrographs for all storm events and the total flow volume for each storm event for existing and proposed conditions. We appreciate the pool is added to the project to help offset impacts. However, the pool offers a 238 to 1 watershed to pool holds ratio and an average of 0.06 inches from the watershed acres compared to urban stormwater standards of 1 inch of storage, which would equate to 100 acre feet of storage in this watershed. The pool seems undersized and unlikely to provide many real benefits. We ask that the information of the pool's effects is added to the modeling report. Specifically, please clarify using model data and narrative flow rates into and out to the pond in time to fill, etc. How can the pool substantially offset peak flows? Ideally, a wetland restoration in an appropriate area would be implemented to fully offset the changes to hydrology, including the flow volumes, which of particular concern in the Lusore watershed. The preliminary engineer's report should verify that all outlet flow sources are presented in the modeling report. Please clarify that the planned 36-inch pipe along with the overland flow as documented in the modeling report are the only sources reaching the Rice Creek from the system. If additional flows will reach Rice Creek from the watershed, examples other tiles and abandoned tiles, pool overflow or others, that is not accounted for in the modeling table, ensure that these additional flows are included in updated flow comparison tables. In order for us to assess the likely need for a public waters permit, more information needs to be provided. As part of the watershed, the adequacy of the outlet analysis, the potential for excess scour at the project outlet into the Rice Creek needs to be examined. Because of the increase in flow, the perpendicular entry of the system into the system, additionally, erosion from this outlet seems likely. Plan page 10 indicates a new 36-inch culvert and 20 cubic yards of riprap will be installed at the outlet. How can this change the course current? How will this change the course current and cross-section of the Rice Creek? Please provide several options for mitigating scour and bank erosion in the outlet downstream of the change direction of entry flow. Adding banking armor using vegetative practices or bioengineering or other stability practices. Our geomorphology and hydrology staff would welcome the opportunity to discuss how to minimize impacts of these tile systems outletting into streams. Please contact us if we may offer assistance. Water quality, fish and wildlife. Rice Creek, the Maple River, and further downstream, Lusore River are impaired for aquatic life and aquatic recreation. The full suite of stressors include altered hydrology, degraded habitat, sediment, nitrogen, phosphorus, and possibly more. Increased subsurface drainage has been well documented to increase nitrate and dissolved phosphorus export. The soils are drained and wetlands can contribute particularly to high levels of dissolved nutrients when drained. altered hydrology directly impacts the aquatic level, but also fuels excessive erosion and habitat degradation. Because this project increases some peak flows, total event flow volumes, this project will further contribute to poor water quality downstream, added stream banks and stream bank erosion, habitat degradation, and impacts to aquatic life. Cover crops, nutrient management, wetland restoration, and/or several other BMPs should be implemented to help offset these altered and nutrient impacts. Overall environmental impact. The Maple and Le Sueur rivers are already overburdened by excess water. Without effective mitigation, we believe that this project will contribute to a higher annual discharge, accelerate erosion and sedimentation, habitat degradation, water quality impacts. This project integrates minimal conservation practices and the 5-acre pool, which is not capable of mitigating the increased drainage water volume or nutrient export from the watershed. Therefore, the project would contribute to a degraded water quality, habitat, and general environmental conditions. Furthermore, the pool is located in an existing CRP easement. To have improved benefits, the wetlands should be restored in land not already set aside for conservation in the area, and it has attributes a natural wetland, for instance, the area identified as a restorable wetland. Conclusion. Overall, the project is just one of several drainage improvement projects that has or is planned to occur within the Le Sueur watershed. The cumulative impacts of this and other smaller projects cannot be ignored. We appreciate this project. It proposes to incorporate some storage. Unfortunately, the pool will have minimal ability to mitigate the drainage improvements or otherwise improve the watershed because of the scale and size of the drainage improvement compared to the pool. Overall, this project is proposed as an overall negative environmental impact. We encourage the Drainage Authority and the project proposers to implement projects and management practices that will work to mitigate altered hydrology, water quality impacts within the watershed. Soil health practices and other BMPs could be used to restore and transpirate water from the landscape while also supporting farmable and healthy watersheds. Cover crops, crop rotations, and residue management could increase soil and organic matter and soil water and nutrient holding capacities. These are other practices detailed in Chapter 5 of the Minnesota Public Drainage Manual. Restoring drained and farmed wetlands would add storage, evapotranspiration, and habitat within the area. All of these practices would help mitigate heavy rains and help store, infiltrate, and evapotranspirate water. Please send these responses to the letter or revised preliminary engineering report, meeting minutes, findings of fact, and any orders of the Public Drainage Authority regarding this proposed improvements to the DNR when they are available. Please submit these documents and any further questions about the letter to Regional Drainage email. That's Region 4 Drainage DNR State of Minnesota.us. Sincerely, Todd Colander, DNR Southern Region, EWR South District Manager. There is a response from Chuck that I handed out just before the meeting here, but I'll let Chuck address that when it's his turn to speak.
Okay, thank you, Craig, for reading that DNR report into the record. At this point, is there any other jurisdictional documents that you want to go over?
No, that's
you. At this time, we'll hear from Chuck Brandel and ISG Engineering. I'm assuming you have someone helping you on this. Chuck, you'll have to introduce them.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to share my screen, and I've got a presentation. Chuck Brandel here with ISG. I have Jen Whitner also, who helped put the report together. We'll go through the project and then address some of the DNR letter concerns at the end, if that's all right.
Yep, thank you.
Like Craig said, there was a petition for the project. We did have a landowner meeting on March 24th and went over the project. Prior to that, we had multiple landowner meetings back in 2019 and early 2020, looking at the condition of the project. We'll kind of go through some of the things that we discussed. Again, Chuck Brandel and Jen Whitmer here. A general overview of what we're going to present as part of the PER. This is a middle step. So at this point, it is not approval of the project, but is the project feasible? We're obtaining feedback from landowners, agencies, and checking if the project is practical and feasible. If approved at this point, a more detailed survey would be put together and a final hearing would be completed, which includes information from the viewers and potential assessment amounts for each landowner. So I'll start out kind of going through the existing conditions and capacities.
All right, CP 52 lies within Sterling Township of Blue Earth County. It drains approximately 1,186 acres. There's about 72 feet of drop within the watershed, and most of the watershed is an agricultural production with C and D hydrologic soils. The history of the system is established in 1917. There was a major repair in 2002, replacing a large section of tile and the outlet. There have been minor repairs to the system since then and throughout the life of the system, and there have been no major improvements.
Landowners back in 2002, I worked on that project, but they had brought up concerns with the capacity and the shape of the system. We televised portions of it, and knowing that there were portions that were in poor shape, there was a portion that was in really poor shape that had failed. That was fixed back then, replacing about 750 feet.
Here's a map of the existing watershed. The red line is the watershed boundary, the black lines indicate the existing pumps with tile, and the yellow line is an abandoned anhydrous ammonia line. And you can see Highway 30 running through the north part of the system. Here are a couple of photos through our drone over the system just to check out how things are. There are a couple of areas of crop stress and drowned out areas. We televised a portion of the system. We had a landowner meeting. Landowners requested that we televise portions of the system just to check on the existing condition of the tile. We held another landowner meeting for there. They decided to move forward with the improvement.
We found the condition of the tile. Portions were in okay shape, but a lot of cracking. Some portions where it was about to fail, and some portions that had offset joints. The 750 feet that we replaced back in 2002 had these two conditions here, and where the tile had eventually failed and sunk. It was a small portion was replaced. So that same occurrence is happening in a few other locations.
We reviewed the originally designed conditions of this project. We looked at the existing tile size and slope and the area draining to it to find the drainage coefficient. So this is the drainage coefficient for how it was originally designed. Based on our televising, the drainage coefficient is probably a little bit less because of those offset joints and cracks and obstructions. So you can see the 28 tile at the outlet is about 0.26 inch per day drainage coefficient. Industry standard for tile systems is a 0.5 inch per day, so it's about half of what we'd like to see. And a majority of the branches branching off from the main line are also below the 0.5 inch per day drainage coefficient. So let's go into what we want to do to fix the system. There are 4 criteria we look at when we're designing our proposed tile. We want to have 5 feet of cover minimum so that people can farm over the public tile and allows for deeper private tile connections. We look to design a 1/2 inch per day drainage coefficient, which is the industry standard. We look at alternative BMPs. In this case, we are including water quality inlet and wetland enhancement.
And one thing to add there, we do look at the BMP handbook as outlined in the DNR report. And we have a large list, which includes the list that was in the DNR letter. And we picked 2 of the items that could be implemented as part of this project. During a feasibility study, we actually looked at many other items, which we'll cover a little bit later.
And per drainage law, we need to make sure that the outlet is adequate for the system. Generally, that means that we can't increase the discharge at the outlet for the peak flows. So here's the north half of the proposed watershed. The green line indicates the proposed tile alignment. So for the north half, we are including a lateral P, which is a
Existing 18-inch tile that was installed, I can't remember the year, in the 70s. And landowners have asked to add that to the system. So that wouldn't be constructed, but it was a private tile that was actually designed by an engineer, and they'd like to add that to the system.
Yep. We will also be shortening branch 6 and adding a branch 8. This is done so we can reduce the number of tile crossings underneath Highway 30 because we'd have to bore the tile underneath, and that's pretty expensive. So we want to limit costs on that.
If we move ahead with the preliminary engineer's report, we'd like to have a meeting with MnDOT and coordinate this design and to ensure that it meets their requirements. But as we have been with many other road authorities, if we can eliminate crossings, that saves on costs, boring costs, and that's what we're at least proposing to do for this project.
Here's the southern half of the watershed. The main feature is a wetland enhancement at the outlet. This lays within an existing creek easement, so we want to build a berm and stop overland flow from exiting into Rice Creek. We're also shortening lateral A and branch 2.
The main line would be a 36-inch tile to just south of County Road 148, and then would be a 30-inch tile continuing north. The main line would be a 30-inch tile, and then a 24-inch tile, a 15 crossing Highway 30, and then the branches vary in size from 15, 12, 10, and then branch 1 and lateral A are 15, 10, and 12.
So here are the proposed tile capacities for the system that we designed. Like I said, we designed to a 1/2 inch per day drainage coefficient. So that means we upsized our tile from a 28-inch, which is the original outlet, to a 36-inch tile. And that included upsizing most of the branches and mainline tile. So here's one of our plan and profile sheets for our design. We are proposing to install the proposed tile below the existing tile, so that leaves farmers with a better private tile connections if they want to retile their system.
And this area here in particular, Highway 30 is just on the left, north being to the left. There's portions of tile that only have 18 inches of cover through this area. So that really isn't adequate for today's farming practices. So by deepening the tile, we get adequate cover, and the tile should last for another 100 years.
Like I said, we're proposing to bore tile underneath Highway 30 and the one crossing that we have proposed. Yeah, that's pretty standard practice underneath paved roads. And for storage, we're proposing a 6-acre wetland enhancement through an existing creek easement. This will reduce outlet peak flow rates because it traps overland flow. It reduces sediment and phosphorus loads out of the system because they hold water for over 24 hours or 48 hours. And it provides wildlife habitat with increased wetland habitat area.
We looked at this area primarily because it is already in an easement, so it can be very cost effective. We have worked with other agencies, including Board of Water and Soil Resources and Minnesota DNR, to enhance existing easements and provide wetland storage. So this is something that we've at least been encouraged to do in the past, and as part of this project, we have been working with the SWCD, the FSA, and the Board of Water and Soil Resources to review this. We've also looked at funding for this. What we've been told by the Board of Water and Soil Resources is that if this structure helps us to meet the requirements of 103E, it would not be eligible for funding. So we have explored that. We have been talking with the SWCD, FSA, and Board of Water and Soil Resources. So that coordination is happening.
It's also fairly cost effective since we don't need to buy an easement for this. Basically, we're just building a berm at the outlet. So it's a very cost effective storage option. So like we said, it's an existing CREP easement. It provides a couple of feet of storage at the outlet. The existing tile will still run underneath it, but it's not perforated tile, so it won't be draining directly the wetland.
The advantages of storage are to increase, we can increase the capacity, reduce peak flow rates, we can change the timing of peak runoff, and create a more effective drainage system. We've been encouraged, specifically recently, to look at wetland opportunities. So we feel this is a really good opportunity to provide storage on a drainage project.
And if we don't do the wetlands, we would need to look at designing a pond for the system, which would be more expensive for the landowners.
And potentially not cost effective.
Yeah.
If the project were approved, the existing system would be abandoned. One of the DNR comments did discuss if there were any alternate outlets to the system, and the existing system would be abandoned, it would be cut off, and there would only be one outlet for the system as proposed to be approved.
For this project, we did a hydrologic and hydraulic model to compare the existing and proposed conditions. So we look at the existing and the proposed conditions. This is a 10-year rain event, which is about 4.5 inches. The blue shows areas that are barely flooded at all for no time, and red areas are flooded for over 48 hours. So you can see a couple of areas where there is red and yellow in the existing on the left, and it's turned to green in the right. So once you get to the orange and red areas, that's where crop loss is, and yellow is crop stress.
And then the red area on the right shows the storage area, which makes up the difference between these areas. So it's not that we're draining everything completely, we're just taking it so it can be more effective for cropping and making up that difference with the proposed well.
Yeah, and the 10 and 25 year storm events are really where this drainage improvement shines. So we also looked at the 100-year rain event. That's equal to about 7.7 inch rainfall within 24 hours. So there's still going to be a little bit of crop stress and crop loss just because there's so much water hitting the system, but it's less than the existing. So we looked at improving the system with no wetlands. That leaves a pretty significant increase in peak flows out of the system, which isn't adequate with our outlet. We also looked at, with our wetland, we're basically cutting off most, if not all, of the overland flow leaving the system. So we are reducing peak flows out of the system for everything except for the 2-year event. And downstream of the system, we're either decreasing or increasing by 1% of flow out of the system.
Or less.
Or less.
We feel the outlet is adequate if you do the wetland. We could look at potentially trying to make the wetland area larger, but to meet the drainage statute and to essentially match the capacity of the existing system is why we have it the size that we have it. It could be larger. We could take a look at that and see if that, how that affects the project budget. We did go over construction practices with landowners. I won't go over those here unless there are questions. But we did go over how the project would be constructed, what goes into our cost estimates, what type of tile and connections we typically use. We showed a video of the construction, different pictures. We are looking at alternative intakes, either with a combination of rock and a Hickenbottom, to reduce the amount of sediment and provide temporary storage throughout the watershed. So that is one of the best management practices in the Minnesota Drainage Handbook. We did add temporary and permanent damages to the project because the wetland area is already in an easement. We wouldn't be asking for at least an easement payment for that, but we did include 100 to 150 foot wide damages throughout the cost estimate. So just jumping to the proposed costs to repair the system as is would be about $1.4 million. To improve the system is just under $2 million. We factor in some potential road authority costs, which we will review with road authorities before the final engineer's report. The total landowner cost would be approximately $1.9 million with a net cost of approximately $576,000. Now, based on past projects for watersheds of this size, this is cost effective, but we would review this with the viewers to determine that at the final engineer's report if the project is cost effective. But based on past projects, that net cost is in the ballpark of what other cost-effective projects have been. Again, we will discuss road authority costs with MnDOT and the county before the final engineer's report. The DNR report talks about looking at multi-purpose drainage management in 103E. We look at many different practices throughout the watershed, and some of those were on the list that is in the RAPS and the Sewer River study. We met with landowners preliminarily and looked at different wetland options, different storage options. Again, we're looking at alternative intakes and a treatment wetland as part of this project. Because the system is primarily all farmland, there is very little opportunity for buffers, waterways, and other features that could be included. The multi-purpose drainage management plan was reviewed with landowners early on and provided a copy provided to them. We also did invite the SWCD to some of our landowner meetings and to discuss other practices. There is an opportunity on the southern part of the watershed to do controlled drainage because of how flat it is. So the landowners would consider that. That is a practice that is above and beyond what the drainage authority can control. But we are implementing, proposing to implement a treatment wetland. So a few of the DNR comments I did cover as we went through. One of the comments was requesting a copy of the viewer's report. That doesn't get completed until the final engineer's report, so I believe the Drainage Authority can include that when we submit our final engineer's report. We can include a copy of the viewer's report for their review. I discussed a little bit additional best management practices. There are many that are outside the jurisdiction of the Drainage Authority. We bring those up. We encourage landowners to do those, but we don't have the ability to implement some of those practices, including cover crops and controlled drainage. We have worked many years with different members of DNR staff to look at wetlands, and if we can get some sort of wetland or treatment wetland into a project, that has been encouraged. We feel that we are doing that on this project. There's also a comment about the use of external funding. Like I said previously, we've been in contact with Bowser, the SWCD, and FSA to look at how the potential BMPs that we are doing would be implemented. We need actually their approval to do it because it is incorrect. And we have been told that these practices would not be fundable as they are part of the 103E process. If we go above and beyond and do additional storage, we could potentially apply for funding, so we will look at that. There's also some discussion on modeling. We can provide more modeling information as part of the final engineer's report, but we did include both the overland flow and the tile flow details in the modeling report. And we do feel that with the wetland, we have very little impact on at least the peak flow of Rice Creek. Will include hydrographs, flow volumes that were requested. Again, I'll say it again, but the only outlet of the system would be the new tile. There wouldn't be a second tile outletting. The existing system would be cut off. There are portions of it that are failing that wouldn't be connected. Other portions would be connected in the new system, but there would only be one outlet into Rice Creek. We also did look at wetland restorations. We provided a cost estimate and a design for potential wetland restoration on the northern part of the watershed. Landowners did review this because it would take 4 different parcels to make this happen. It really wasn't feasible. Not all the landowners wanted to do it. So we did provide this as an option in the feasibility study, but landowners did not want to move forward with a larger wetland restoration. This would have been approximately 85 acres. We looked at the environmental criteria of the project, and at the preliminary stage, we feel that the project is cost effective, practical and feasible, and a necessity. It will be of public benefit and contribute to public welfare. Thus, we recommend approval at this time. We did get the DNR letter Thursday afternoon, so apologize for getting the responses back to you yesterday. So, that's a summary of our report.
All right, thank you, Chuck and Jen, for that report. At this time, before I open the public hearing, I'll just ask if there's any clarifications or quick questions from the county board before we move into the public hearing. Okay, seeing none, we will move into the public hearing portion of this. If you are on the phone and would like to talk to us, just state your name and address for the record. Keep your comments to approximately 3 minutes. So anyone wishing to comment on the CD 52 proposed project, please state your name and address for the record. And unmute your phone.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm Corey James, Senior Hydraulics Engineer at the Minnesota Department of Transportation. I'm addressing the board today at this time to convey that as a landowner in the County Ditch 52 system, MnDOT's willing to pay an appropriate amount for the maintenance and improvement project. However, I'd like to point out today that it is MnDOT's policy to not pay for county ditch tile installed within the state highway right-of-way. Minnesota State Statute 103E.525 states that road authorities are responsible for bridge and culvert costs. The statute does not specify tile. Looking at the preliminary engineering report, according to the road crossing summary table in Appendix G, for the Ditch 52 improvements in Brewer County, Minnesota, dated February 21, the construction costs for the tile installation on the main tile at Minnesota Trunk Highway 30 are assigned to MnDOT, and MnDOT specifically contests these costs as they are not explicitly authorized by state statute. That's what all I had. Thanks.
Thank you, Corey, for that clarification. That's been an item of discussion, so we appreciate that.
And if I could just respond also, after the CD 35 hearing, I had a meeting with representatives from Rinky Noonan and here at ISG, and we reached out to MnDOT, essentially headquarters in St. Paul, to discuss this issue so we can get clarification, and we have not heard back from MnDOT on this. This is the preliminary hearing, so there is no potential assessment at this point. in my opinion, whether MnDOT pays out, the project would still be cost effective. So I will try to encourage to have that meeting and get clarification on that before the final engineering report.
Thank you, Chuck, for that clarification. That was going to be my question at the end, was if it was still feasible. So thank you. And thank you for your comments, Corey. Anyone else wishing to comment on CD 52 preliminary hearing? Is there anyone on the line that would like to comment on CD 52 for the report we heard from the engineer this morning? Okay, seeing and hearing no public comment, at this time I will close the public portion of the comment and bring it back to the board for discussion and a motion. Action from the board. Just to refresh everyone's memory, our options are to approve, accept the findings in the order such as sequentially amended, and order that the detailed survey report and viewers report be completed for the purpose of the project. If more information is needed, we can certainly postpone the hearing, or we can reject the project altogether. It's my Commissioner.
Pat moves to approve.
Okay. Okay, I got a motion and a second from the board to accept the findings in order to such subsequently amended to order the detailed survey report and viewers report be completed for proposal of this project. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'm just curious, when is the DNR brought into these discussions?
This is Chuck Randall. I can answer that. So by statute, we need to give them a copy of the preliminary engineer's report. So they received it back in February. And I have been, previous DNR staff, we would have quarterly meetings to go over projects. The DNR has switched who, at least the staff that reviews these, I've asked them to reestablish those quarterly meetings so we can get, instead of the 30 or 60 days in front of a hearing, to try to meet quarterly to go over these. So I'm going to keep trying to encourage that. That seemed to be more effective than getting the report. But by statute, we have to submit the preliminary engineer's report when the engineer submits it. And then the DNR does get at least 30 days at the preliminary stage. Again, they've had it since February. And then on the final engineer's report, the DNR gets 30 days before you can set the hearing. So essentially they end up with about a 60-day comment period there.
Thank you, Chuck.
I'm working with Trick to try to make that longer and have quarterly meetings, so I will continue to do that.
Thank you, Chuck.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Landcamer, staff have reached out to the DNR requesting their comments earlier so that we can include them in our packets. They have indicated they will try to do that. This one, they indicated that they still needed more time to submit those comments. So hopefully in the future, at least, we'll get it before the packet is issued.
Thank you, Bob.
Commissioner Pap?
I guess my thoughts are kind of building off Commissioner Landcamer's, and as well as the DNR, is what Chuck had said. I've reached out to the assistant commissioner as well as the agriculture person at DNR to try to get back to some sort of quarterly meetings or communication. I guess my question or concern is we're kind of on a trend here of getting things Thursday afternoon just after the board packet goes out and things like that. What can we do to maybe just have everyone be a little bit more responsive and timely so everything can be included in the board packet?
Yep, good comments.
This is Chuck Randall again, and one thing that I will say for the CD35 project, which I know is not this one, we did submit the modeling information and some other information to the DNR ahead of us completing our report. So that way we can work on comments before we complete our report. So we'll be months ahead instead of 30 days ahead. So I will continue to do that in between the prelim and the final hearings, as we typically have more time if we're waiting on the viewers at that point. I'll do the same for this project.
Thank you, Chuck. Okay, I think those points are very well taken for our reports from the DNR. It is frustrating to get a several-page document read into record today, and Chuck has only had a chance of a couple days to look at it. But I'm comfortable with moving forward today and dealing with these questions that the DNR has, because Blue Earth County certainly supports water quality and erosion and all those other items that we have to deal with, but we do support our local farmers and drainage also. So we will just keep working on that. And Chuck, thank you for your help, and Kevin, thank you for your help on that. That's if we can get some continuity here and get some more meetings going, it'd just be beneficial for us today. So any other questions or comments on the actual project? Hearing none, I have a motion and a second. Stephanie, will you call the roll call?
Commissioner Pat?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Stuenberg? Aye. Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries. At this time, this will finish our public hearing for the County Ditch 52 project. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And Chuck, you're going to stay on for the next project also, correct?
No.
Yes.
Well, he doesn't have to, but this is County Ditch 28, Chuck?
Yep, I'll stick around if there's questions.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you, everyone. Good morning. Our hearing today is regarding the petition to outlet lands into County Ditch 28. Since most of the attendees are attending virtually, I would ask anyone wishing to speak to introduce themselves before speaking. Please mute your phone until you are ready to speak. We will now hear from the drainage staff to go over the jurisdictional documents.
Okay. The hearing notice was mailed to all landowners on March 29th, and it was advertised in the Free Press. The background here, Blue Earth County Ditch 28 was in sections 15, 16, 17, 19, 20, 21, 28, 29, 30, and 31 of Lincoln Township, Blue Earth County. Its watershed is approximately 3,900 acres. The Property and Environmental Resources receives a petition to outlet lands into County Ditch 28 on January 13th, 2021. On February 2nd, the Drainage Authority appointed Ron Rehnquist to prepare a recommendation report for the outlet fees and benefits on petition land. The purpose of today's hearings, if the Blue Earth County Authority finds that the CD 28 is adequate to outlet the petition additional lands, it is required to give the petitioner express authority to outlet the lands, set an outlet fee, and set the benefits to be used for future repairs. Due to the subjective nature of this type of hearing, Blue Earth County is following the established practice of getting a viewer's recommendation regarding setting the fees and benefits. When setting the outlet fees, all recent assessments are considered, including the original improvement assessment, the supplemental improvement assessment, and all repair assessments over the last 10 years. Copies of the landowner petition and the viewer's recommendation letter can be found in the board packet. The petitioner, Mr. Kluver, has requested that he speak first when it comes to the public comment time period. We also, with that in mind, we have received some questions through email from a landowner, which I will save until we get to the public comment on that too. And that's it for jurisdictional documents.
All right. Thank you, Craig, for that. At this time, we will open up the public hearing comment portion. This hearing is being recorded, so please state your name and address for the record, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. And as Craig alluded to, I have several people on a list here that I need to get to, so I am going to start with Robert Kluver. He would like to have a public comment, so this will be our first calling for the public comments on County Ditch 28. Robert?
He's on mute.
You're on mute. Still can't hear you. Oh, there we go. Now we got something. There we go.
Are we at? Okay. First of all, I want to thank Craig, and I also want to thank the Blue Earth County time in dealing with this matter. Again, my name is Robert Kluver. I do live in Northfield. Kind of a quick bio. I farm and teach, and I do farm, excuse me. I do farm. I did teach. I'm a retired teacher. I taught for 36 years. And on our farm, we raise corn and soybeans and hog. And my family sort of originated in Blue Earth County. In fact, this piece of property that's in question, I have a great uncle who lived there at the time. He's deceased now, but it was Stubb or Stanley Meyer. And I've always had a penchant to go back there, and so I had an opportunity to buy this piece of property that was close to that. And as we bought the property, we knew that it needed to have some tile on it. And of course, tile is important for good agricultural productive crops. And so what happened after we closed on this on December 22nd, the neighbor next door happened to be tiling, and he knew that the property had been purchased by me, and the contractor approached me about doing some tiling. And so this kind of happened really fast. I said yes. He said he could get it done this winter before the frost set in. And we felt that it was important to get it done before spring. It just seems like that the winter can forgive it a little bit, and it's more mellow in the spring after the tile has been done, and the winter can kind of ease that problem a little bit. He did inform me that the best outlet was to go through CD 28. He just said that if you try to go to JD7, you're just going to add underground water storage. And so he drew up a plan, and I set it, and it really got tiled very quickly, and it was done, and I was very happy with that part of the project. I know a lot of people wonder why I live in Northfield and I own farmland down there. I do take the risk for the crop. I'm going to have someone do the custom work for me, but I still will be marketing the commodities. And in fact, and when there's a corn crop grown there, I will be using that crop to finish hogs that I have in the area. Now, I understand that there is an outlet fee for the parcel, and I've talked to Craig about this. And it was done with Ron's appraisal service. And we're proposing to have it amortized over 5 payments, with the first payment being due immediately, and then thereafter we would do 4 more equal payments annually, and I think the rate was at 4%. And so that's that's what happened. It's just a very good outlet, and those are important. And again, I realize that some of I'm only taking the subsurface moisture. I am not taking any overland water. So some of the surface water will still be going into JD7. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, for those comments. At this time, is there anyone else that would like to comment on the CD 28?
Okay.
I got, just hold on a sec, Greg.
Yeah.
We got a couple letters we're going to read into record here, but I'll just see if there's anybody else that wishes to comment that's on the line.
Okay.
If there's no one else on the line, we'll do it. Let's start with the Pat Crowley letter, I believe.
Yep.
Okay.
Pat had 5 questions. And I'll just summarize the questions here and then have our response. Number 1, will the determined $37,466 additional benefits and the $21,060.98 outlet fee be applied to the current landowner's assessments? The additional benefits, response was the additional benefits amounts to the additional lands draining as part of the system and will be used to calculate future repair assessments for the system. The outlet fee is applied to the CD 28 repair account. The outlet fee will be used for the system repairs and costs, just like other assessments. collected from benefited properties. In previous instances, the new lands added to the existing systems like this outlet petition, the county has been asked to refund the current landowners. Our drainage attorneys have told us that the county is not permitted to refund directly to the landowners like as requested here. Does the outlet fee, the second question, does the outlet fee amount include the original assessments and cost of overruns? The answer is the outlet fee considers and includes all applicable costs for the County Ditch 28 systems, including repairs for the last 10 years. So the answer is yes. And in addition to those costs, it includes all the repairs for the last 10 years. Will the county provide disclosure of the amount to each landowner when this money is applied to each landowner's assessments? Our answer, we assume that you are referencing a payment of the outlet fees to each landowner's assessment as noted above. This is not permitted and the outlet fee will be used for system repairs and costs. Just like the other assessments collected from the benefited property. By adding this land to the system, the future repair assessments will be reduced per acre because there will be more benefiting land sharing the assessments for repairs and costs. At a point, as a point of reference, this system has just over 3,900 acres, so the one-time outlet fee equates to about $5.40 per benefited acre across the whole system. As mentioned above, there is no cost to pay this outlet fee to each landowner assessment. Instead, the fee will be used to reduce the cost of future repairs to all landowners, and the new acres being added to the system will reduce future costs for all landowners by sharing in those future costs. Question number 4, is there a penalty for after the fact assessment? This is a concern that is not new, and the issue of unauthorized outlets has been addressed in state law, Minnesota 103.401. Unauthorized outlets into the drainage system are to be blocked until property is petitioned to the system and outlet fees are paid. The county can put a lien on the properties for costs to block the outlets that have not been properly petitioned into the system. The statute does not authorize other penalties. What is the county's, last question here, what is the county's process to ensure unauthorized outlets don't occur? As noted above, this is not a new issue and has been a concern as long as drainage systems have existed. Our drainage staff does inspect drainage systems, and if a staff observe any issues, unauthorized outlets, or other violations of law, the county takes appropriate action. In the past, for example, the county found an unauthorized outlet because of a current tiling but that was not adequate to drain the system's acres. The county also gets phone calls from neighboring landowners and investigating those reports. As you noted, that's it for the comments from Pat Crowley. One comment on Mr. Kluver's request for 5 years. One of the handouts I gave you would be a revised findings in order to include allowing that outlet fee to be paid over 5 years with the first payment due immediately.
Thank you, Craig, for that clarification. And that was all of Pat's letter read into the record then?
That is everything for Pat Crowley.
All right. So at this time, I do have a note here to call on a John Crowley. If he's on the phone, he wanted to testify. So I am asking if there's a John Crowley on the phone. And from my understanding, if he wasn't on the phone, he was going to submit something in writing, but as of this morning, before 9 o'clock, I had not seen anything in writing. So at this time, I will move on after those two have been read into record. Anyone else that is on the line that would like to visit about County Ditch 28? Anyone else wishing to comment or have a question on County Ditch 28? Outlet fee. Hearing no comments anymore, I will bring it back to the county board for further action. And just, Kevin.
Just a quick question for Craig.
Go ahead.
So I'm still going to play the new kid card here a little bit. how often does this happen? I mean, is this common, and I know it's happened before, but how often is this, and is it always the same procedure, no matter what the outlet, what the situation?
Well, this has happened fairly frequently. We haven't had anything really recently, but it tends to run in streaks, I've noticed in the past. What tends to happen is, especially in larger amount like this, we've always gotten a viewer's report. We like that third party because there's not going to be any bias or anything like that. We just want that third party opinion, especially from a professional appraiser like Ron Winquist. It helps. We have had cases where we've had the outlet fee is so small, we didn't want to bother. So we've just kind of, and it's pretty obviously what the payment should probably be. We just had staff make a recommendation. Those are usually very small outlet fees or very small acreages. This is 56 acres, and of course it had a very recent improvement with large costs, so that's why we wanted a third opinion. We did the exact same on County Ditch 36 when we had petitions. We had actually 2 petitions for outlet fees shortly after the improvement project was completed. So yeah, this is kind of a standard procedure that what we do today, with some exceptions if it's smaller. This is pretty straightforward. The 5-year, asking for 5 years has also been a kind of a standard. We've done it on other projects, letting the landowner pay over 5 years is pretty normal.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Kevin. Other questions for Craig regarding the project? Hearing no other questions, I would entertain a motion to allow the petitioning for the outlet lands into County Ditch 28, and I just want to let everyone know there's a new copy of it in front of you, and just want to point out that it is going to be financed for 5 years, 5 payments, the $21,060.98.
And that is, Mr. Chair, that is the only change from the handed out version compared to what was in our packet.
Yes, that's the only change.
Correct. Thank you for that clarification, Kevin.
Pat moves.
People seconds.
I got a motion and a second. Any other discussion, questions, or comments?
Mr. Chair, I just want to clarify, make sure that we're getting this motion recorded properly, that it would be the findings and orders with the requested pay of the outlet fee over the 5 years.
Correct.
Okay.
Just so we get that,
the revised documents.
Yep, with the payment for 5 years. Yeah, so that money goes into, this is actually going to work out well. I mean, that money goes into the account for repairs, and then there's more people to help pay for repairs in the future. And this ditch has had its challenges, so look forward to working with that. And then we'll. All right. Any other questions or comments? If not, Stephanie, we call the roll.
Commissioner Pap?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Stuenberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. The motion carries. That concludes our County Ditch 28 public hearing. Craig, you have one more item for us?
Yes, we have one last item. This is usually Ryan would be presenting this, but he is not. He's out for the week here.
Okay.
So I'm stepping in on his behalf here. We have a repair that is exceeding our $15,000 limit here, so we need to have formal board approval. This is on County Ditch 56. Oh, so it's in actually, I believe this is Garden City Township, yes, where this repair is done, where we have some tile that needs to be replaced. The estimated cost is between $20,000 and $30,000 for the replacement of 1,000 to 1,400 linear feet of tile. So I'd like to ask for board approval for this repair.
Okay, do I have a motion to do the repairs?
Pat moves.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Got a first and a second. Any discussion? Stephanie, we call the roll.
Commissioner Pap?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Stuenberg? Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Craig, for those 3 items you dealt with. Chuck and Jen, thank you for your work and all your help on these projects. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
With that, we have about 10:40. We will take a break until 10:50.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we're back in session here, and we have Ryan Tildes, our Public Works Engineer, here to give us a full report and several action items.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. I have a very extensive list of action and discussion items today, so I'll try not to rush through them, but I'll try to work my way through them expeditiously and always offer questions as they present themselves. Please don't feel like you need to wait to ask me a question. So the first action item we have on our agenda for today is the consideration of bids for state aid project 007-627-015, which is for County State Aid Highway 27 in Eagle Lake. 3 bids were received, with Dirt Merchant Incorporated being the low bid of $2.442 million, which was 17.4% under the engineer's estimate. All 3 bids range from 17.4% to 3.34% under the engineer's estimate. I've included the bid abstract in the handouts for you today that provides the detail that includes all of the project items as well as their unit prices for each contractor with a subtotal at the bottom. With that, I also included a Schedule I, which is a cost participation breakdown. So the quantities and the costs, and this will be consistent throughout all the documents I gave you for all 3 bids that we're going to consider. The total project costs are rolled into the participating roadway and storm sewer numbers for both the county and the city as they're broken out. And then we also apply a 10%, to be conservative, a 10% contingency for contract changes as we go through the project. We generally don't hit that threshold, but again, we're just trying to be conservative with our finances. And then we incorporate 10% of total project cost of engineering fees that are subdivided, again, 45% county in this circumstance, 55% city of Eagle Lake. So if you look at just strictly construction costs for the county, we are at 1.312 million, and the city construction costs $1.631 million. I would recommend award of the contract to Dirt Merchant Incorporated out of Mankato.
I'll second.
Got a first and a second to approve the contract for County Road 27. Any discussion? Should be a good project. That's expensive, but the project's got to be done. There's no discussion. Stephanie, would you roll call, please?
Commissioner Pap?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Stuenberg? Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries.
All right, thank you. The next bid for consideration is for state aid project 007-657-005. This is for the County State Aid Highway 57 roundabout interchange with North Riverfront Drive and US Highway 14. There were 2 bids received, with WW Blacktop as the low bidder of $2,650,401 and a penny, which was 4.78% higher than the engineer's estimate, and Minnesota Paving Materials was the second bid at $2.652 million, or 4.86% higher than the engineer's estimate. So very, very close bids. I mean, spitting distance of each other. I also included a Schedule I breakdown for your information of how the project costs are split out in this circumstance between 3 agencies. Wrong one. MnDOT's construction cost participation is $1.412 million for their share of the roundabouts and the approach ramps. The county cost participation is about $607,000 for construction costs only, and the city cost participation is $631,000 for construction costs. So I know a lot of the time you see these preliminary schedules in the cooperative agreements. I thought, especially in these where we have such cooperative projects, it's good to share the breakdowns and how much each agency is going to have at stake in these projects. With that, I would recommend award of this contract to WW Blacktop.
Landcamer moves approval.
Got a first and a second for WW Blacktopping for the interchange at Highway 14. Any discussion? Another project we've had great many discussions over, talking about in work sessions and other groups, so thank you for all that work, Ryan. If there's no questions, I'll ask Stephanie to do the roll call.
Commissioner Pap?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Stuenberg? Chair Brunder?
Aye, motion carries.
All right. Action item number 3 is consideration of bids for State Aid Project 007-682-009. This is County State Aid Highway 82 from County State Aid Highway 60, which is Stadium Road, to south of Hoffman Road. 3 bids were received, with Dirt Merchant Incorporated as the low bid of $3,223,979.71. This is 16.62% below our engineer's estimate. So we received some tremendous bids on these 2 projects, and I think, as we had consultants developing the estimates, they and we were conservative, not knowing what the bidding environment was, but received some very good numbers. All 3 bids range from 16.62% to 3.08% under the engineer's estimate, so all of them came in under. I've attached the project bid abstract with all the bidders' unit prices again for you to see the breakdown, and have also included a preliminary revised Schedule I to show the participation costs between county and city. County total construction costs of the revised number based on bids, $2.775 million, and the city cost participation based on bids, $448,000. In the lion's share, this is ours. The city's share is the work at Balserzak, half of the trail cost and half of the signal cost. I would recommend award of this bid to Dirt Merchant Incorporated.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the...
Okay, thank you, Mark. Do you have a second?
Landcamer seconds.
Thank you. Any discussions?
This one is it's a good project.
Yep.
Another one that's kind of long overdue, I guess.
All right.
Yep.
I got a motion and a second for Dirt Merchant. Oh, go ahead, Vance.
I was going to say that it's kind of the same thing Mark did. It's a project that probably I've been hearing about since I became a commissioner 10 years ago. People wanting to get some sort of a trail path along Victory Drive. It's exciting to hear that we're getting some very good bids that to help us along. So, very good.
Good. All right, I got a motion and a second for Dirt Merchant for CASA 82 to CASA 60. Any other discussion? Stephanie, do the roll.
Commissioner Pap?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Stuenberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye, motion carries.
All right. Action item number 4. We're almost halfway done. It's consideration of bids for our annual bituminous seal coating materials emulsified asphalt contract. We received 3 bids this year, with HG Meigs is the low bid, $405,000. That's 1.3% less than last year's bid, which is also shown on your bid summary included in your board packet. I would recommend award of this contract to HG Meigs.
Okay.
Pap seconds.
Got a first and a second to HG Meigs. Any discussion?
Oh, over there. What do I do?
There you go.
Technical difficulty. There.
People
All right.
didn't want to hear me anyway.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? These new overlays are always very nice for the county. Nice to see them.
Yep,
being
and these
done,
are,
so.
if I said overlays, these are for our seal coating materials.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, if there's no discussion, Stephanie, we do the roll?
Commissioner Pap?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Stuenberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye, motion carries.
All right, thank you. Action item number 5, consideration of bids for the annual maintenance gravel hauling contract. We received 2 bids with Max Johnson Trucking, the low bid of $225,500. That's 4.4% less than last year's bid for the equivalent identical quantities of materials. So I would recommend award to Max Johnson Trucking.
Stuenberg moves to approve.
People seconds.
Got a first and a second for the gravel hauling.
Can you
Max
explain why we're getting a lower bid than
You know,
last year's? I mean, we have 2 bids now that you have the exact same amount of stuff.
Right.
And
I don't have a definitive answer on it.
is it
I
a
think
new,
it's-
new person come in, or does Max Johnson do it before?
No, Max
or-
Johnson was not low last year. R&E Enterprises was low, so I think, what we've been told from industry is that there is a high level of competition. There's obviously concern, I think, over the economy and work availability, and getting these out earlier ensures that we're going to get better prices than waiting a little bit longer, so
Positive for the taxpayer.
absolutely.
All right, if there's no other discussion, Stephanie, would call the roll.
Commissioner Pat?
Aye.
Commissioner Pepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Strumberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. Our last maintenance contract item is consideration of bids for our maintenance striping contract. 3 bids were received with AAA striping as the low bid of $206,940. That's 1/2% less than last year. I would recommend award to AAA striping.
Landcamer moves approval.
Thank you, Colleen. Do I have a second?
Stumer will second.
Second. Any discussion?
Just a comment, I really appreciate looking at this year and last year. That's really interesting to me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. And this is another huge safety item. As some of us get older, these nice bright lines are much nicer when it's rainy and dark out, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Makes a
project.
big difference in bad weather, especially.
Yes. Yep.
And I think there'll be a future emphasis even above and beyond what we're doing now as connected and autonomous vehicles
Yep.
come into play with more automated driving features, because they are very reliant on the striping on the roads. And I know they get onto gravel roads and they're going to have a harder time, but I think there's going to be a continued push for us to do more and more higher quality striping.
There's a delayed buying one of them, yeah.
Well, I was going to make that very comment, because it is, with the technology we have in these cars nowadays, other than going through the roundabouts, you can get almost from Eagle Lake to Mankato. Just got to steer through the roundabouts. But yeah, they rely on those lines, so.
I hadn't thought about gravel.
Yeah. that's
Yeah.
what
Just
I said,
hadn't
delay-
occurred to me.
Delay that one, take one of those and the direct gravel.
All right, I got a motion and a second for our striping, to AAA striping for $206,940. Stephanie, would call the roll.
Commissioner Pat?
Aye.
Commissioner Pepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Strumberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye, motion carries.
All right, thank you. The next action item on our agenda today is consideration of the final approval for the Greater Mankato River Valley Trail Master Plan for submittal to the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission. On the board packet, I provided a hyperlink so you could look at the digital document. I also included a physical copy for you today so that we could not be bopping back and forth. And I'll be relatively brief on this because I know we've spent considerable time reviewing the draft document. But if you turn to page 37 of the report, there is a statement of regional significance. That's an important part of this document. I won't go into reading it. I'm sure you have all fully read the document and have a comprehensive and based on past review as well. And then on page 42, it details the development of the master plan and talks about the short-term improvements, mid-term improvements, and long-term improvements. If it's okay with you, I'll just flip through these relatively quickly. There's a few items that are laid out that are listed as county action items. On page 48, there's the addition of a new flashing beacon at 3rd Street and the North Minnesota River Trail segment. That would likely be a county and city cooperative effort because that's a city-owned segment of trail, but it's a county road. And then on page 50, recommendation for a new trailhead for the Red Jacket Trail segment. This would be just north of Rapidan itself, where the trail comes out onto a local road and then runs to the shared use shoulder trail. Page 52 discusses new regional trail signage and wayfinding route needs. Page 54 talks about trail seating nodes, so spots where we could stop and put additional benches for folks to rest as they're using the trails. And then page 55 notes trail segments that should be widened from 8 feet to 10 feet. And then the very end of the document, there is a master plan improvements list that's prioritized from short-term, mid-term, and long-term improvements. There's also the following page, some cost estimation and prioritization, so if I went too fast, I apologize. I, again, know we've seen all of this once and would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Otherwise, I would recommend approval of this master plan so that we can submit it and take our shot at regional significance designation.
I'll move approval. Landcamer?
Got a first and a second. And as Ryan already stated, we did have a work session on this and had some good discussion on it. Is there any other questions or comments that anyone would like to give at this time?
It's pretty well known across the state that Blue Earth County has an amazing trail program. And I've talked to people that do bike riding and walking and stuff, and they come to Mankato area because of our trail system. I've always considered our park system and our trails to be a diamond in the rough, and all this does is really improve that. So congratulations to the Parks Department and all the people that do this work, because it really makes Blue Earth County look good, and it's good for us.
It gives us some additional opportunities that we wouldn't have had previously, so it's a good thing.
Okay. If there's no other comments, I'll ask Stephanie to call the roll.
Commissioner Pat?
Aye.
Commissioner Pepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Sternberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries for the Greater Mankato River Valley Master Plan.
All right, thank you. The next action item, number 8 on your list, is consideration of final payment for contract payment for state aid project 007-601-17 and 601-19. This is for the County State Aid Highway 1 reconstruction from CSA 90 to Mankato, as well as the surcharge placement south of CSA 90 in 2 locations. Mathewitz Construction was the prime contractor. The original contract amount was $10.116 million. The final work certified to date was $10,942,000, with a final payment amount to be paid on this final voucher of $30,220.45. I would recommend we get this one off our backs and we start the next one.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the additional for Mathewitz.
Thank you, Mark.
Second, Landcamer?
Second, Lean, thank you. Any discussion?
It's a long time coming, but it's a good project, and kudos to our Public Works, to you, and then of course with the state involvement and all. It's I think people in the area that have to go in and out on that one and stuff, they're appreciative of it.
What a difference.
Oh, I love that road.
Yeah, it's
going back and forth now out to the our new garden and stuff, and it's just I love the windiness. I'm glad we kept it down to 30 miles an hour, and you know, I love that road. It's just gorgeous. Last time I was out there, I think I saw 5 deer running across. So
You just don't want them hitting your car.
don't want to hit the car, but you know, at 30 miles an hour, you're going slow enough that
You can see them. All right, I got a motion and a second for the final payment to Mathewitz for $30,220.45. If there's no further discussion, I'll ask Stephanie to call the roll.
Commissioner Pat?
Aye.
Commissioner Pepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Sternberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye, motion carries.
All right. And action item number 9, consideration of a resolution for County Road 151, New Bridge number 07588, over the Little Cobb River, authorizing the county engineer and the county attorney to procure the necessary right-of-way, including use of eminent domain if needed. This is our standard resolution that we use for all projects for right-of-way acquisition. I would request that that be approved.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept?
Pat moves.
Okay, do I have a second?
Peoples, aye.
Got a first and a second. Pretty straightforward. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Stephanie, you call the roll?
Commissioner Pap,
Aye.
Commissioner Pepo,
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer,
Aye.
Commissioner Strumberg,
Aye.
Chair Brunder.
Aye. Motion carries for the right-of-way acquisition.
All right. Our last action item for today is consideration of the addition of Jenna Reinert as a Blue Earth County Parks Board advisory member. Jenna is a co-owner of the Nicollet Bike Shop and an avid parks and trails enthusiast. She had reached out to us about 6 months ago with interest in playing a greater role with the Blue Earth County Park System, and the Park Advisory Board was a great opportunity and the right avenue for her to express her advocacy. She did meet with the full Park Advisory Board, or at least the majority of the Park Advisory Board, in our most recent meeting. I think that was a couple of weeks ago. Yep. And was approved by the Park Advisory Board, or recommended that the county board approve Jenna's term or addition to the Park Advisory Board. And this is a board that, as you may know, meets approximately 3 to 4 times a year and provides us with guidance and advocacy, and as a sounding board for park-related matters.
All right, thank you, Ryan.
Move
Do I
to
have a
approve,
motion?
Sternberg.
Okay,
I'll second.
got a motion and a second to approve Jenna for the Park Board. Any discussion?
I just talked to her last week down at the Nicollet Bike Shop,
Oh,
and she was rather excited to
Good.
be on board. And I think she'll be a really good team member that, you know, to give different advice and what needs to be done. Of course, being a co-owner of the bike shop, they use the parks and the trails, and they're able to see stuff that some of us might not be able to.
Yeah.
I would just add, I certainly agree with that. I've known her for a long time, and she will do a great job, and it'll help with some eyes and ears of hearing concerns around the county, just having those connections. So
Absolutely.
it'll be a great job.
They were a great help when we were putting together this master plan. Actually, we took some of those documents and asked them to help us promote getting public feedback, and the local bike shops did a great job with their advocacy and getting people to weigh in on it. So
That's great.
yeah.
perfect. All right, I got a motion and a second to add Jenna on our Blue Earth County Park Board. Stephanie, you do the roll?
Commissioner Pap,
Aye.
Commissioner Pepo,
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer,
Aye.
Commissioner Strumberg,
Aye.
Chair Brunder.
Aye. Motion carries.
Okay. We are through the action items, now into informational and discussion items. Included in your packet, I believe there was a copy of the Engineering Excellence Awards issue from the ACEC. And I brought with me today and that's the American Council of Engineering Companies of Minnesota. There were 3 projects that were awarded their Excellence Award, and one of them was our Kern Bridge project for Ronnie Engineering in Blue Earth County. So I'd like to present that to the county board today. Another plaque that we can hang on our walls for some of the challenging projects we've been able to complete. So
That's
we're
exciting.
honored
nice.
to receive this. I'd be more than happy to pass it around if you'd like to look at it, or if maybe when we're done, take a break. It's up to you.
You can just leave with Jesse. Will.
Congratulations.
Yes.
That wasn't
Very
an
good
easy
job.
project.
It wasn't, but it's if it gets put when it gets put back up over the Blue Earth River, connecting Land of Memories and Sidley
Agreed.
Park, I think it's going to be pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
Nice.
Be a great day for all of us.
I'm glad it stayed here
Yes.
in Blue Earth County.
Absolutely. Project updates. County Stated Highway 41 bridge replacement. Crews are working on tying the bridge deck reinforcing steel with plans to pour the actual concrete bridge deck next week. Work is expected to progress from north to south on some of the road work, and June 15th, 2021 is the completion date. County Stated Highway 16 trail from Stadium Road to Pleasant Street. Nielsen plans to resume construction next week. There will be a west road shoulder closure for the construction project. Again, that should be done mid-June as well.
Nice.
Obviously, getting a fairly good and early spring is going to be tremendously helpful for us with all of the work that we have online and getting an early jump on some of those projects that had June completion dates. So we're happy in that regard.
Just to comment on that, I really appreciate you working with Jesse to get that out on social media. It makes a difference when people realize that some places are going to be a little more difficult to access.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Absolutely. County Stated Highway 27, reconstruction from Minnesota Highway 14 to the North County line, County Stated Highway 2. That was a project that was let last year. Road closure is going to be set in tomorrow for tree clearing, and then construction will resume with Mathowitz following behind the tree clearing subcontractor. Work again is expected to progress south to north with the recycling and widening of the road, and then kind of concurrently the regrading of the curves on the north end. And right now, the Great River Energy Transmission Pole relocations are underway, so that's happening as we speak. County Stated Highway 27 in Eagle Lake, reconstruction that'll be this year and perhaps a little bit into next year. The contract start date is the first week of May. Dirt Merchant Incorporated has indicated they are eager to begin as soon as possible, so that's always a good sign when the contractor is ready to get to work. 57 roundabouts, same thing. Contract start date is the first week of May. WW is also eager to get work started right away because they have a relatively aggressive schedule to try to have that done in August. There's a significant amount of work that needs to be completed.
Mr. Chair, I've seen the schematics. I'm just trying to figure out how far it comes towards the road to Loyola.
How far the reconstruction comes?
Yeah.
Not all the way to the intersection by the Casey's gas station, but I don't have the exact distance, but it gets fairly closely, but it does not get into that intersection.
Into that intersection. I didn't think so. I just said I'd ask.
Yep.
Thank you.
CSA 82 Victory Drive from Stadium to Hoffman. Again, same thing. Contract start date is the first week of May. Dirt Merchant, again, on that contract is eager to begin the work. They have a lot to get done on that also, and I think we were trying to get that completed before college resumes, or at least before the local schools resume. We may not get it done before college starts. Right now, CenterPoint Energy is currently relocating the gas mains, which does require lane closures. If you've been through there, you've certainly noticed that over the last week. There will be different staged lane closures for the gas main installations through the end of the month until construction begins, and then once construction begins and the entire road is closed, they actually have to do a couple of open cut crossings. We wanted to hold off on those types of impacts until we were able to do some other construction work concurrently. County Stated Highway 1 from 9 to 90, the last piece of our turnback project. I didn't know if we'd ever get there, but we are advertising for bids, planning a bid letting on May 19th for a May 25th board consideration of bids. That's going to be the biggest contract yet for all of those stages. So us awarding over $9 million worth of work today will just be a good start. So. The 2021 bituminous overlays, Minnesota Paving Materials plans to begin milling next week and begin paving the week of April 26th. So we're going to get an early start to that to try to free up staff so that they can be available for all these other projects that'll be kicking off in May. Bridge replacements, we have those 4 bridges that were funded through last fall's state bonding. CSA 740, County Roads 151 and 169. We are revising the bridge plans as we speak because the spec year changes, the specifications change every 2 years, and we've always been proactive of having bridges shovel ready on the shelf. Well, as the specifications change, we have to go in and change some code things and certain design elements. So it's frustrating in that regard because you have to have bridge plans done to get your bridge on the list to be in line for money, but then they keep changing the specs on you. So we have to update the bridge plans after they're done. So frustrated with that, but happy that we're going to get those 4 bridges replaced. Still intend to replace CSA 7 this summer into the fall. County Road 151 would likely be bid this fall with work happening in the fall into and through the winter. That's a very short detour, so we think we can leave that closed over the winter. And then 169 and 40 would plan on 2022 construction.
Okay.
And then CASA, some municipal projects that are in the horizon. CASA 7 in Mapleton, project design is underway, still planning on 2022 construction. And CASA 10 and 72. In the city of Vernon Center, the city is leading the design on that because it's not just those roads, it's a very large chunk of the city that's going to be reconstructed with new utilities. So we're working on agreements with them and trying to find some funding to cover the last 2 blocks of CASA 72, which is the main street through town. And as part of that, there was an LRIP application, as you may be aware. So waiting to see on the results of that. And I may actually jump to that quickly if it's okay. Not on my agenda, but a very interesting, oh, got cut off. I can email it to you too, but very quickly on the LRIP applications, I just received an email yesterday. There were 421 applications statewide for LRIP projects for over a total projects value of over $833 million, and I think there was in the neighborhood of over 300 million. I think it was almost $350 million worth of LRIP money requested, and that was all going after $75 million statewide. So
Wow.
District 7 had, I believe, 46 applications.
Wow.
We were 6 of them, so I don't know what kind of shot we have, but we at least took it. So between the 2 township applications, 2 small city, and 2 Blue Earth County applications that were submitted.
Well, if you don't apply, you can't get it.
Absolutely.
That's your best shot at it.
One other update, the MAPO intersection control evaluation study at the intersection of County State Aid Highway 16, Stoltzman Road and Stadium Road. The study contract has been approved by the MAPO. Alliant Engineering is the selected consultant firm. They'll begin that work, but we're going to hold off on traffic counts until MSU resumes in the fall. My conversation with a few faculty, and maybe I brought this up before, but they are hopeful that the majority of classes will be back in person on campus this fall session. So that has obviously a dramatic impact on overall traffic.
Well, and that's also been a request of some people on the city council.
Correct. Yep.
To wait, so everybody wins on that one.
Yep. And my last page got cut off, but Rapidan Dam update, I'll go off memory here and I can provide you with an email update, but it's been very busy on Rapidan. We just had a call yesterday between BAR Engineering, Blue Earth County, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and the Army Corps of Engineers to discuss project permitting and what would need to be done for the removal study and talking about discharging sediment downstream, et cetera. What were some of the hurdles we would have to do, what environmental documents would be necessary. So that was a good kickoff meeting. In addition to that, BAR Engineering and Blue Earth County have been very busy obtaining soil borings for the sediment upstream of the dam in the basin. Those were completed. Analyzing the sediment for the stability. They've also calculated uplift forces down the downstream aprons. They've calculated flow velocities. They've done some arc map applications and determined an estimated sediment volume in the basin. And our estimate from 20 years ago was about 11 million cubic yards. They're up to about 11.9 million cubic yards of sediment in the basin. And then also starting to put together some mapping and some profiles for what the new channel could look like, in addition to several calculations and beginning to put together the body of the documents for us to consider. On the repair study, they've also been doing a deep dig on other studies that would provide them with relevant information with respect to the river dynamics and flows, et cetera, and some of the calculation work necessary with that. The other item that came up in late March was that county staff was advised by the Department of Public Safety, Homeland Security, Emergency Management that our 2019, from spring of 2019, our FEMA grant application was approved.
Oh, good.
So we were awarded $2.675 million for repair of the downstream apron and some of the other elements that were damaged from that 2019 flood. So that includes repair of the existing apron and other elements, plus mitigation measures that at the time, based on very, very preliminary engineering, we had decided to include costs for basically anchoring the apron down into the bedrock. So BAR is running with that to further expand that. I did have a talk with the state folks that money is 75% federal, 25% state. We were paid 25% of it up front, and in addition to that, we would be eligible to receive reimbursement for project engineering costs, which should include the feasibility report that we're doing on the repair option. So it requires further investigation. The money was supposed to have been obligated for a project within 18 months of the disaster declaration, which we didn't even get notified that we were getting the money within 18 months of the disaster declaration. So it will require an extension. That's on my list of things to submit the paperwork for. And that could be, I think that would take us through 2023 for the extension. And we could even get a further extension beyond that, but it would be required that FEMA would have to approve that, which, talking with HSEM, they weren't too concerned that would be the case. So good to know that we've got at least a significant portion of the repair option in our pocket if we need it, depending which direction the board determines they want to go when we get both of the feasibility studies for the removal and the repair options presented. And we're obviously trying to develop those in parallel so that we can bring them both to you and go through them and make the best decision possible. I did inquire if the money would be able to be switched over if the board decided to do a removal project. And they thought there's probably a fairly good likelihood that the repair dollars could be used for a removal contract, but the mitigation dollars would not likely be able to be used. So it'd be about 1.7 million that could be available towards the removal project if that's the route that was taken. Obviously, we've got a lot to discover on funding availability and sources for that, so it's sometimes hard to get clear answers from these folks, so we're working through that process and trying to communicate with them. We've had a couple of calls and are still exploring how it would all work and what some of the rules are associated with those different funds.
Speaking of not clear answers, the American Rescue Plan, which we don't have hardly any answers on right now, dams are included in that, I heard.
Okay.
So the clean water stuff. So it's another thing to look at.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that concludes my report for today. So
All right.
I'd be happy to answer any additional questions if there are any.
Questions for Ryan before he runs off?
Nope.
Pretty good,
Just some
thank you.
projects, go get them done.
Yep. Have a great day.
Especially since most of them are in my district.
You had to add that, yeah.
I have a feeling we'll be talking quite a bit this summer, Commissioner.
All right.
Well,
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to the roundabout there at 14 in Riverfront. I think, and all the businesses I've talked to are not upset about that roundabout, you know, knowing that there's going to be a cutoff on Riverfront Drive and all the stuff. The ones I've talked to said, we know it's our turn because, you know, over the years, Madison Avenue's been redone and all those businesses suffered and stuff. They know it's their turn, but they're excited that there actually is going to be a decent interchange area there when people come off from Highway 14. So that's going to be a great project to get completed.
Absolutely. All right.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Okay, our next item on our list is Pat, County Attorney's Office. Morning, Pat.
Morning,
Hi,
Pat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. The report speaks for itself. I'll note that it appears that the agenda is a little bit behind, so I'll keep my comments brief, and if you have any questions, please interrupt me. But I would note that a couple of things. Mr. Chair, actually, when you were having problems with the technology, it reminded me that we've been having really good results with our technology, and IT's been working really well with us on some of these projects. Our new software system is going very well with integration with law enforcement. Within that, we will be integrating with the State Public Defender's Office, and we have a couple of different projects going on. A few years ago, we partnered with State Court Administration, and we're the first county in the state, and with the help of IT and all the IT departments, to be able to use a document get system, which goes in and sweeps the court site and automatically brings documents into our system. Other counties have adopted that. We were chosen as one of the counties to be involved in the juvenile petition process, which is not automated and is very clunky. So we're currently working with IT with that, and then we've got a meeting this afternoon with Carrie to discuss some other projects. Next on the list, a couple of things would be the integration with other departments within the county, and which would probably make the most sense would be human services. So we're going to talk about some of those because there are many state-run programs that we should be able to interface with. So I'll leave it with that unless anybody has any specific questions, concerns, or comments.
Any questions for Pat?
Just a comment, I think it's great that you're using technology like you are. You know, things aren't sitting on people's desks waiting to get to you. It really streamlines a lot of stuff, so thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. And, you know, and it's to me, I think it's a compliment to Blue Earth County that State Court Administration reached out to Blue Earth County and said, hey, we want you involved in this project.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Thank you,
Good
Pat.
job. Thank you, Brent.
All right, move on down to administration. Bob?
Well, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, the first item is the county board minutes from March 23rd.
Landcamera moves approval.
Peebo, second.
Got a first and a second for the minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none. Stephanie, do the roll.
Commissioner Pat?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Sternberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries for the minutes. Bills.
Sternberg moves the bills.
Do I have a second?
Pat
Peepo.
seconds.
Pat, thank you. Any discussion on the bills? Hearing none. Stephanie, you want to call the roll?
Commissioner Pat?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Sternberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries to pay the bills.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 9 in your packet is the Human Resources Department agenda. We just have informational items for the board today. We filled a senior land use planner position in our Property and Environmental Resources Department. We had a promotion of a registered nurse to a clinic coordinator in our Human Services Department, and so that's resulted in the need to initiate recruitment to fill the nursing position. We also had a promotion of a property and environmental specialist to a land use specialist, the permitting role in our Property and Environmental Resources Department, and so that's caused the initiation of recruitment of another property and environmental specialist. We also have initiated recruitment on an assessment specialist as well as a librarian. We had a resignation, actually 2 resignations of custody officers, so we've initiated recruitment to refill those positions. Then we also had a resignation of a human resources technician in our Human Resources Department, so we've initiated recruitment to refill that position. And then lastly, we have a lateral transfer of an investigator from the Sheriff's Office to a fraud investigator position in the Human Services Department. So basically just converting that position from a Sheriff's Department position to a Human Services Department position. Be happy to answer any questions that the board might have on those items.
Any questions or comments?
Nope.
So, okay, so Ginger's spot will still be, she'll still be a sheriff's deputy, but she'll be paid.
She will no longer be a detective and her investigator. She will move departments and leave the sheriff's office.
But she'll have law enforcement duties.
she'll have fraud investigator duties. So no, she will not be under post-licensing and stuff.
Oh, really? So there won't be a post-licensing on it?
Right.
Interesting. Okay.
All right, we'll move on then. All right, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 10 in your packet is a County Extension Committee appointment. Bonnie Christensen, the Regional Extension Director, has requested appointment of Cleo Matsky to the County Extension Committee, and so we're bringing that name forward here for the board's consideration.
Pap moves.
Do you have a second?
Landcamer seconds.
Thank you. Any discussion? Stephanie, do the roll.
Commissioner Pap?
Aye.
Commissioner Pepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Sternberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion passes. We'll extend our welcome to Cleo.
Item number 11 in your packet is the financial status report for March 31st. That is the end of our first fiscal quarter of the year, and so you'll see our total revenues are 15.8 million against total expenditures of 23.3 million. Obviously, we're waiting for those first half property tax collections to come in to kind of balance the picture a little bit. Overall, things I think are progressing nicely. Nothing really standing out here in this report. This is kind of a typical position to be in at this point in the year. I always watch the state and federal revenue line. See, we're down 4.5% compared to the year prior, but hopefully with some quarterly reports having gone in, we'll start to see that rebound in the coming months. On the enterprise fund, which is the Ponderosa landfill, you'll see our total revenues there are about $776,000 compared to expenses of $556,000. So we're banking a little resources for those future land and machinery equipment needs that will be forthcoming. The second page then has our cash and investment balances. You'll see our 6-month operating needs of $55 million. We're a little below that, which is typical again at this point in the year. Our total county funds are sitting at about $109 million. We also have some fiduciary funds that we're responsible for that brings up that total to $112 million. So be happy to answer any questions the board might have on the financial status report. Any questions?
All right now.
All right, thank you for that report, Bob. Anything else for the good of the order before we move on to committee reports?
That's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. And today, Clean, I think I'll start with you today.
Sounds good. On the 23rd, I had an airport commission, and, you know, the primary discussion there is the tower and hangars. And I also shared Commissioner Papp's concerns about not having a tower. I had community and community ed on the 24th. And NACO, the legislative conference, went through a large part of the month. 25th, NACO Ledge, 26th, NACO Ledge. On the 30th, we had a federal update with the congressional delegation on transportation. We had a really good turnout and good conversation. And that evening, the legislators had a rural town hall that I participated in. On the 31st, I had the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership Board. On the 1st, I had the American Jobs Plan explained what they're thinking. It obviously has not passed Congress yet, but this is kind of the first alliteration of the jobs plan. On the 2nd, the American Rescue Plan with the gentleman, Mr. Spearling, who is going to oversee that rescue plan and trying to figure out what rules and regs are going to be in that and how they get the money out in a timely manner. They're thinking June 1st will probably be when the first half of the allocation will probably come out. On the 5th, I had Finance and Intergovernmental Affairs and Pensions. That has a lot to do with the American Rescue Plan. I sent Bob and Lisa and Josh some information that we've gotten so far, waiting for rules and regs to be written, and it's a big project, so it'll take a little time. On the 6th, I had a conversation with Randy Malushnik about energy efficiency and an organization that he's engaged with, and so just had a conversation about that. And I also had Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership to talk about recruitment for the board. We have a couple openings. On the 8th, the Diversity Council had a conversation. As you all know, or maybe don't know, Bucata is leaving to go to work for Blue Cross Blue Shield and run their diversity section. So we will now start thinking about how do we fill that hole. But good for Bucata. I mean, I'm going to think a great job and a real compliment to him that he got that job. And yesterday, I had a meeting with Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership on the 4th Street project in Mankato. We should talk about that.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Colleen. Vance?
All right. So, we go back to the 23rd. I had a Zoom meeting with the Living Earth, the community on the community farm garden. I had a transportation on the 24th. I had a Transportation Alliance Board meeting, and then I had meetings both the 24th and 25th on the NACO Legislative Conference. And then I was able to jump in on the Parks Advisory Board meeting and talk that on the 25th. On the 30th, we interviewed for a manager for the community farm. It's interesting doing an interview on Zoom, so that's, for something like that, but it gets done. On the 1st, I had a transportation committee meeting for NACO. Let me see. Of course, on the 5th, we had Senator Klobuchar here, and on the 6th, I had a NACO monthly membership committee meeting. On the 7th, I had coffee with AMC over Zoom. And, I'm sure that's something that we will continue on even after we don't have, any issues with COVID anymore, because you can get commissioners from all over the state meeting together and talking about issues, and it's kind of nice. Let's see. I had kind of a slow week there, and yesterday I had my first law library board meeting. That was the end of my report.
Thank you, Vance. Kevin?
Well, as has already been mentioned, participated with other commissioners in the NACO workshops, as well as department heads. Commissioners Brunder and Pipo and I attended the township officers meeting. I, with Commissioner Brunder, attended planning and zoning, as well as a SWCD monthly meeting from water management, CD 52 and JD 14 meetings were held. From professional development or upcoming, this week I'll participate in AMC's new commissioner training, as well as planning and zoning and board of adjustment training this week. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Mark?
Okay, on the 24th March, did have partners, Pedal Past Poverty Planning Committee meeting that I'm on, and the sponsorships are actually going really well. We got over 38,000 last I knew of businesses and groups, and then we'll have, well, we won't because of obviously COVID yet, but we'll have at least 25 teams for bike teams. We have our team that a bunch of you are supporting, and People's Peeps. I'll put that on the record. That's been that way for 9 years. Might as well see how long that goes. Then on the 25th, we had, of course, Partners for Housing board meeting, and that all came up, and everything's moving right along. And then the yes, with Kevin and with Kip was at the Townships, Blue Earth County Townships meeting, which was over in North Mankato at the that service center building. That's been over a year, at least a little over a year, I think, since we last met, so because of COVID. April 1st, I had a Maple Policy Board meeting, and of course things like our 57, the roundabout, that area came up, all those projects, and then on April 7th we had department heads meeting, and then April 8th, Kip and I, we did have another RCF meeting, get things squared away there, and then last Friday had a early morning meeting, as always, with All Seasons Arena, and that actually concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mark. The several items that were already mentioned that I was at, I won't rehash them, but we had my emergency communication, my EMS board meetings, and we just did our regular operations, monthly approval of bills, and keeping things in order there. Accepted a couple grants, 911 fee diversion meeting. That is about the fee that the bonds are getting paid off, and so now they're trying to keep the money back in the system. So a lot of discussion about that, all the way from we need the money in the system for the PSAPs, but at the same time the money was taken out to just serve as a bond, and now the bond's paid off. And if you keep passing taxes to pay off bonds, and then when they don't go away and the bond goes away and the tax don't go away, it creates an issue for credibility. So a lot of discussion about that. Was down here for the senator's speech that she gave, talked about COVID and the metropolitan area. She did a nice job. It was a good, nice turnout, good program. Had an MRCI meeting. We were just working through some different things. You all probably heard on the radio, they decided to close the thrift store. The biggest problem with that is it just can't find the volunteers. They're just...
That's too bad.
Yeah, it's been a long and very profitable, but the volunteer workforce is just getting so low, and to man it with paid employees is just not enough profit margin. So they will be moving forward with that in the next month or so. Department head was already mentioned, always very informational. Planning and zoning meeting we had the other night. We have a lot of items coming up at the end of the month, so they all were pretty non-controversial. And one of them from the Blue Earth County with our home-based business, the level 1 and 2 home occupation got tabled because we just weren't quite there yet at planning and zoning. So figured we'd have that discussion more before we brought it to us. It's not that crucial to get it here. And then SWCD was already mentioned, and that brings me to today. So with that, we are going to be stopping down at Pub 500 for lunch. The public is invited to attend, and it'll be our first time out for lunch in probably a year also.
Yeah.
So with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn if there's no other business.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Actually,
Second?
Mr. Chair, this will be a recess.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, thank you.
We have
Just forgot
we have
about
to
that.
recess, yeah.
We're just
Motion to
gonna
It's been a year, you know.
Motion to recess from Mark. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Stephanie would call the roll.
Commissioner Pat?
Aye.
Commissioner People?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Sternberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries to recess. Thank you. We're adjourned.
We're not used
Or
to
we're
that.
recessed.
We're not used to that, Kip.
Whatever we are.
It's been
Yeah,
over.